Look, we've all seen those dusty post-apocalyptic movies where people fight over a single canteen of water in the desert. We've been told for decades that water is the new oil and that the next wars will be fought over pipes, not pipelines. And honestly, most of us just tuned it out. It felt like one of those problems for the year 2080. But here's the thing, 2080 arrived early. While we were all distracted by AI, the stock market, and whatever was trending on social media, the world's liquid bank account just hit zero. We haven't just reached a shortage. We've entered the era of water bankruptcy. I'm Dennis Lesak, and this is Tomorrow Explained. I spend a lot of time looking at the systems we assume will always be there. And today, I want to walk you through something uncomfortable. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, the Earth is 70% water. How can we be bankrupt? It's a fair question, but think of it like this. Imagine you have $1 million, but it's all locked in a trust fund you can't touch. And meanwhile, your checking account is overdrawn by $5,000. The ocean is that trust fund. It's there, but we can't easily spend it. Our checking accounts, the rivers, lakes, and underground aquifers, are currently flashing red. And here's what most people don't realize. Unlike a financial debt, you can't just print more water to bail yourself out. To understand how we got here, we have to talk about the invisible straws. See, we think about water in terms of what we drink or how long we shower, but that's a tiny fraction of the problem. This is where it gets really interesting. Every single thing you are wearing, holding, or eating right now has a water price tag attached to it. That steak you had for dinner, that took about 1,800 gallons of water to produce. A single pound of chocolate, over 2,000 gallons. Your smartphone, about 3,000 gallons for the mining and manufacturing. But look, even your morning coffee, that one cup actually cost 37 gallons of water just to get the beans grown and processed. Think about a single pair of denim jeans. To grow the cotton and dye the fabric, it takes about 2,600 gallons. That's enough for one person to drink for 10 years. We've been living on water credit for a century, pulling ancient water out of the ground that took 10,000 years to accumulate and using it to grow alfalfa in the middle of the desert. We were spending at a rate of 100 miles an hour, while nature was only depositing at 5 miles an hour. Now let's talk about the desalination trap. You'll hear politicians say, "Don't worry, we'll just drink the ocean." But look at what happened to Carlsbad, California, or Adelaide in Australia. These cities spent billions on massive desalination plants. In Australia, they built the Victorian Desalination Project for roughly $4 billion during a record drought, only for the rains to return briefly. The plant sat idle for years, but the citizens still had to pay hundreds of millions in service payments just to keep it on standby. It's like buying a Ferrari and then realizing you can't afford the $50 a gallon gas it requires. Desalination uses a staggering amount of energy. In places like Saudi Arabia, they are burning roughly 25% of their total daily oil production just to create fresh water. It's a cycle where we use energy to get water and water to get energy. And we haven't even mentioned the brine. For every gallon of fresh water produced, you get about 1.5 gallons of toxic, hyper-salty sludge that is pumped back into the sea, literally suffocating the local marine life. It's not a magic fix, it's a high-interest loan. And this is where it gets really interesting. We've entered what experts call the AI energy water collision. We're currently in 2026, and the data centers powering our digital lives have become the world's newest, thirstiest customers. Every time you ask an AI a question, it's like pouring a bottle of water onto the floor. Large language models require massive cooling. Microsoft and Google recently reported huge spikes in water consumption. Microsoft alone used nearly 1.7 billion gallons in a single year to keep their servers cool. To put that in perspective, that's enough to fill over 2,500 Olympic-sized swimming pools just so we can generate AI images and chat with bots. We are literally choosing between our digital future and our physical survival. But here's the revelation that is starting to shake global markets. Water bankruptcy isn't just about thirst. It's about the very ground we stand on. This is something called subsurface subsidence. Because we've pumped so much water out of the ground, the earth is collapsing in on itself. Entire cities like Mexico City are sinking by nearly 20 inches a year. Parts of the city have dropped 30 feet since 1900. Think about the infrastructure: pipes snapping, building foundations cracking, subways warping, all because the water pillars holding up the soil are gone. In California's San Joaquin Valley, the land has sunk so much that the actual elevation of the state has changed. And once that soil compacts, the storage space is gone forever. Even if it rains for 100 years, that bank account can never be refilled. The vault has been crushed. You might be thinking, surely we can just move the water from where it is to where it isn't. But look at the Colorado River. 7 different states and 2 countries rely on it. It's already over-allocated, meaning we've promised more water to people than actually exists in the river. We are fighting over a ghost. This leads to what I call water sovereignty. We're starting to see countries banning the export of water-heavy goods. Look at Saudi Arabia. They actually banned the growing of wheat domestically because it was draining their ancient aquifers too fast. Now they buy land in Arizona to grow hay there and ship it back. But how long will Arizona let that happen? An orange is basically 13 gallons of water wrapped in a peel. When a country exports fruit, they are literally exporting their national security. Here's what most people don't realize. We are moving toward a split tap economy. In some parts of the world, we're already seeing day zero scenarios where the taps just stop. We saw it in Cape Town, and we're seeing it now in major metropolitan hubs across India and Mexico. It's not a slow fade, it's a sudden cliff. When the water bank goes bust, the social contract goes with it. Real estate values in dry zones will vanish overnight, creating a migration crisis that makes current geopolitical shifts look like a warm-up act. Imagine 100 million people moving not because of politics, but because they literally cannot find a drink. So where does this leave us? Well, we have to stop treating water like a renewable gift and start treating it like a finite asset. We need proof of origin for the water used in our clothes and our tech. We have to reconsider whether it makes sense to have green lawns in Las Vegas or to grow thirsty cotton in the middle of a drought-stricken plain. We need to move towards circular water, and where every drop used in a city is treated and reused indefinitely rather than dumped into the sea. Look, I know this sounds grim, but the first step to solving a bankruptcy is admitting you're broke. Once we stop pretending the credit card is bottomless, we can actually start the hard work of restructuring the debt. We are the first generation in human history that has to learn how to live on a water budget. The era of unlimited swipes is officially over. The question isn't whether we'll pay the debt. The question is how much of our current lifestyle we're willing to trade in to keep the taps running for the next generation. If you want to keep track of the systems that define our future, the ones most people take for granted until they break, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm dedicated to uncovering the stories that will shape our tomorrow, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. I'm Dennis Lisak, and this is Tomorrow Explained. Thanks for watching.